Hey, my beautiful mamas, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm really excited to record today's conversation. My special guest, Stella Bergen, she is, okay, I'm going to see if I can capture everything that you are because you are so magnificent, but you're a health and human performance specialist. You are a coach who is up at the crack of dawn, helping her clients transform their lives. You are a mom of four, and you are a cancer survivor. And you are on a mission to really help people understand their own beautiful, unique journey and foundation of health so that they can have the information they need to make the best decisions for themselves, no matter what stage of life they're in, no matter what environment they grew up in, no matter where they're living today, but looking at health from more than one lens. And I think that's so refreshing because you and I were just talking about it a second ago. I grew up, this was health. How much you should weigh on the scale, how long you should hold that chin up in the presidential fitness, award, and how good you look in a bikini, right? So it was a very surface level focus of health. And to what you are really talking about and able to help, it's so much more nuanced. It's so much more complex, but there's so much beauty when you can understand that. So please introduce yourself to my community. I'm so happy you're here.
Yes, I'm Stella Bergen, and I'm a health and human performance specialist or health and human performance coach, and I work with a variety of people, but I have a fair number of high-performing Silicon Valley executives, a lot of moms. I work with teenagers. I mean, basically, if you have a goal and you're willing to work, I'm here to help you out. So, anyway, Scotty knows I recently had cancer, which it kind of flipped, my whole view of kind of health and health outcomes, kind of flipped it upside down. So, I've had a lot of thoughts about that since I went through cancer treatment. And, I'm just super happy to be on here with Scotty. I think the two of us could talk for hours.
We could. You had mentioned that before, and I just want to dive into that first off, because here you are, a pillar of health, and we're going to talk about your 5 pillars, but you yourself have always lived a very good, intentional, thoughtful life, right? And so you said when you received that news, right, from your OBGYN that you had cancer, it kind of just pulled the rug out from underneath you because it just 2 + 2 didn't equal 4 in that moment, right? So
yeah,
how did that shift your perspective, and how have you carried that with you now? Because I think that's happening to a lot of women our age. We're doing all the things, everything, but still life keeps happening and life is lifing and people are peopling, and It makes us feel discouraged. Like, how do we learn from that and use it as information to help us move forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating, right? Because I probably have been living, pretty healthy lifestyle since I was in my early 20s. I definitely evolving. I kind of was always interested in health resources, like learning more about the body. I was an athlete. I was a big runner. Have been a runner since I was probably 14 with a little bit of break in there. I didn't run in college, but then I started running. I didn't run like my freshman, sophomore year in college, but then started running my junior year in college just for fun. Like I want to start running again. So maybe a couple of years in there, I was not running, but maybe 2 or 3, but otherwise since I was 14 and, eat a healthy diet and try to, eat a diet based on kind of what the current science would say. And so, I get the news that I most likely had cancer, and I didn't know for sure until I had my hysterectomy, but I was shocked. I was like, first I felt let down by my OBGYN because they had not followed up with some tests they had ordered, and I kept asking and asking and asking, and they hadn't followed. So I was really disappointed, felt let down by her. But then second, I just felt like I'd let myself down. Like, where had I failed myself? Like, I didn't have really strong signs of hormonal imbalance. I did have perimenopausal symptoms. I don't want to sound like I didn't, but they were never that great. I would have never thought about putting myself on hormone replacement because I get aura migraines. So I wouldn't really be a candidate anyway, but I felt like I was doing a great job of mitigating my symptoms through diet and exercise and other lifestyle choices. And so, at first when I would read about uterine cancer, it was like, oh, it comes from a imbalance of hormones. And I was like, what? How could my body have let me down like this? Like it gave me no signs. But, when I went, and so I went through all of that kind of like upset with myself, upset with my OB. But then when I went back and talked to my OB oncologist, he was like, he gets his head, looks at me in the camera and like, girl, you're not special. Like, get in line, get in line. He's like, you can do everything right, but these are environmental. We know these cancers are environmental. And I think people need to know that. Like a lot of these cancers are environmental. You can do everything right. It does not mean you are not going to get cancer or that your body may not fail you in some way. And what I came to is like, I was so lucky. I bounced back really quickly from my hysterectomy. I went through my radiation. I don't want to say like a champ, but I was able to not take any pain medication or they give you like a, lorazepam. Oh my gosh. It was like right after White Lotus. And I was like, oh, maybe I should take the lorazepam. But I always had things to do. It was like I had to go to prom for my senior. I had to, not go to prom, but we had like my daughter, my youngest was a senior. And I was like, I didn't want to miss anything. So I was like, I'm going to try this without. And it was totally fine for me. Everyone's got to look out for themselves. But, I kind of felt like, well, what it did offer me is that my body hadn't failed me, really. Like our environment is failing us, quite frankly. But what hadn't failed me was really my body handled my cancer treatment like a champ. So, what you do gain by taking care of yourself is a greater awareness of what your body is able to do, how mentally strong you're able to be, how you're able to show up, whether that's, it's tough having young kids and getting through the teenage years it can be, especially when you have multiple children, even one child can be challenging. And, if you haven't figured out how to kind of keep your nervous system balanced, whether that's blood sugar balancing diet, whether that's through learning how through breath, through breathing, making sure you're getting adequate hydration, whether that's just through water or other hydration or taking some electrolytes. I mean, there are all kinds of ways that we know that we can help kind of self-regulate our nervous system. Right? Like that's just one thing, like when you're a mom, right? Like, so all of taking care of my body helped me in my cancer treatment. I will tell you that. I know that for a fact. It didn't necessarily, I'm the only person in my entire family that's had cancer. Not my grandparents, my parents, my sibling. So who knows? Like, is it something here in Northern California? Who knows, right? We do know these pockets of areas in Northern California that have high rates of certain cancers. Like, I don't know, maybe all those chip manufacturers were dumping a lot of toxic waste in the water before it got overly regulated. Not overly, but regulated, right?
Well, and I appreciate you being so honest and sharing your story. Two things I really do want to talk about. One is that environmental piece that, I know that you're very well versed in, and it matters so much when you think about somebody's health. It is not just what we choose to do every single day.
Right.
But with that said, I want to talk about like the direct impact that you taking care of yourself had on battling the environment and what your body had to address. Because I know it's hard to wake up every single day and stick to the workout and stick to the hydration and the good foods, especially when you're not seeing the scale change or your energy, so it's more that it's doing more for us, I think, than those immediate returns on our investment. So let's first talk about the environmental piece, because I know that's something that you really feel so strongly about. What are those environmental factors? And then how could somebody, it's really hard. Say say they don't live in a place where they could just pick up and move, or say,
Right.
what are some ways for them to better their own environment if they're living in an area that isn't supportive of the healthiest lifestyle?
Right. I mean, that's great way, great question, great way to phrase it, because we do have, right, I think of it as like if you've got circles, if you're in the center of that circle in terms of what you can control with your health, and maybe you can control some of the choices you make to a certain extent. But even moms with young kids, sometimes it feels like if let's say you've got a mom who has 2 or 3 young kids and you're on a budget, right? So I'm just going to put it, you're on a budget, and so, you may not even really be making yourself your own meal, because in order to save money, you're just making your kids something and you're just eating the leftovers. I know moms that even aren't on a budget that do this, but we're just throwing out like how complex and nuanced, this idea of health is. So first we have like these big circle outer, which, we want to make sure we have clean air, clean water, clean food, clean and nutrient dense soil, right? So if you just start with that, and basically you also need a place to live. Like you need housing, you need access, maybe even to some type of transportation, even if that's a bicycle. But, so those are like your kind of basic, your foundation blocks, right? Like kind of physiological needs. So, and some of those are bigger than us, right? Like we all like to think we have clean air, but you don't know unless you go onto your state, local, county. I think in many places you can actually go into your county, you can find your air quality. But I mean, how do we know, right? Like how do we know what particles are in our air? I mean, most of us are in the health space, have some knowledge of glyphosate and how, glyphosate's now in the air we breathe. And if you guys aren't familiar, glyphosate is the main chemical in Roundup, which has now been sold to Bayer, which is called like Ladies Liberty or Liberty something. I can't remember what the exact name of it is, but right. So we have all these chemicals in our air that we don't even know, right? Or in our air. And then same thing in our water that, you can put a water purifier on your water, but it's quite expensive to put a water purifier on your water. Yeah. And really, at the end of the day, most of us feel like our government our local government, local and state governments should be doing us at least service by at least making sure our water is clean, right? But once again, you don't really know unless you go on and look at what's in your water. And I'm pretty sure that information has to be public.
Okay.
But
I'll see if I can find it and add
and
that
I've
link.
never accessed it. So I'm just saying, but and obviously you can go buy a Brita filter, you can buy pretty inexpensive water filters, but still they are extra costs, right? Our soil, we all know our soil has been being depleted for years and years, which is why now there's so much talk about electrolytes and taking minerals. And what most people don't realize is the reason we're all wanting to take minerals is because the minerals aren't in the soil. So therefore the minerals are not getting in the food we eat to the extent. And, never forget, hopefully the Momplex does not forget, supplementation is supplemental to your diet. Nothing can replace eating having a good, healthy, nutritious diet. No supplement will replace that, right? So once again, if our soil was nutrient rich, we wouldn't need, the supplement market is out of control. It is out of control. If you're spending $300 a month on supplements, but your diet is crummy, it's really, you need to take a look at your diet, right? Because you could spend much less and you could just get rid of some of your supplements. I take supplements. I'm not anti-supplement at all. It is supplemental. Like supplements need to be
not a replacement.
It's not a replacement, right? And so, once again, if we just start there, that's why we've got these big circles on the outside that most people don't have control over, in their health space. That's why health making, and trying to make not just one person healthier, but in the vast span of the greater community and the greater population healthy. Why it is very complex and very nuanced, right? Because we need to have some of these basic needs met before we can say, let's make sure that you now are going to getting your fresh fruits and vegetables. So, and let's talk about whether those fresh fruits and vegetables are even available in some communities. So if you live in a community, I think getting outside is,
Okay.
like we can talk about like getting outside and getting fresh air and getting sunlight. But there's a lot of places where that's not even, think about if you live in Houston in the summer, and you're basically walking through these tunnels all the time, right? It's fascinating because what we don't realize is, we're very fortunate. We live in an area where we have ample sunshine and we do have clean air for the most part. And our water supply is pretty decent. But like we don't have that in many places in the country.
Yeah.
And, and we should. So we'll start there. I think once you get outside of that community space in terms of, these are things that should be available to everyone, and they're regulated by the government. They're either regulated or they're not regulated adequately by the government in order to ensure that we have those things. When you get outside of there, then you start looking at now, do you have access to healthy food? Do you have access to fruits and vegetables? Do you have access to beans and legumes? Do you have access to good sources of healthy proteins? Can you walk, right? Like, are you physically able to walk? But also, do you have spaces that are safe? So that would be safety needs would come second. If someone lives in a unsafe neighborhood, you certainly can't ask them to get out and walk every day. Right. That's why I said it's just so kind of nuanced and complicated.
Yeah.
Just within those kind of building blocks of what people's needs are. So let's make sure, people's needs are met. And then let's talk about can you get out and walk? What can you do? Can you move your body in a smaller space? You live in an apartment. Let's figure out what you can do. What's even doable, within that space. Everyone just doesn't have the same access.
Which is fine, and I appreciate the truth of it because I don't want people to just make those assumptions that everybody's 24 hours could look very different, right?
Right.
But if we can reframe it, having that awareness, getting curious, going out and actually paying attention, getting curious, how is the water in your neighborhood? Are there safe hiking trails that you could get to safely with your kids? What if you went out at 7:45 in the morning and got your vitamin D before 9:00 when it got super duper hot, right? Or, and you hear about people choosing, if they're in that office all day long under the fluorescent lights, could you, even if you don't, could you replace your chair with one of those exercise balls? Or just take one of your calls and walk around the halls of your office. So I agree with you. I talk to my moms about this all the time when I'm trying to share tools with them to help, manage their burnout and heal their nervous system. It's not that the solution is only in an expensive spa day or a weekend vacation. We're talking about what can you do that fits into your life, that feels good to you, that's going to offer you some remedies to some of these challenges going on. And I think what you're doing is really shining a light on some things because say her house is locked and loaded. She's got the best of the best inside her refrigerator. She has that Brita filter. She's doing all the right things, but yet she's still not feeling that great. Great. Is it a mineral deficiency? Is the soil not what you think it is? Are you getting enough vitamin D? So I love how it is awareness, something that is bigger than us. It is, we have to include the world outside of our four walls, right?
Yeah. I do think with young moms, just on the topic of young moms, if we just look at kind of, what's going on in their world, and, they're trying to manage so many things. And being a young mom, it's physically and emotionally just taxing, right? Because, it's just kind of nonstop. But, I do think, looking at hydration. I mean, obviously, sleep is huge. A lot of young moms just don't get sleep. And a lot of us think we can. I mean, I did. I thought I could operate. I thought I was fine. I mean, I don't think I got a great night's sleep. I don't know for how long. It was just a really
like
long
a dozen
time.
years, maybe.
Yeah, it's really. It's just not okay. It's not good, right? Like all those things make your sympathetic nervous system kind of on overdrive, right? So you just feel like you're a little bit always on the edge. I think young moms, right? It makes you feel like you're like, why am I anxious? Well, you're anxious probably because you're not sleeping well. You may not be getting, exercise. And I think what you were pointing out, even if we can help, those young moms think of it as like movement snacks that you don't need to get. Actually, in some ways, you're better off doing 2 minutes of exercise 10 times a day than going out and doing 20 minutes of exercise and then staying stressed out the rest of the day, right? Like movement snacks, right? So even if you can probably get your kids to do some movement snacks with you for 2 to 3 minutes, right? So even if you just break it down, do some jumping jacks, even if you got your baby, do some side lunges and push that baby out, away, or lift that baby up, squat down, lift the baby up, and just set a timer, 2 to 3 minutes, do it 2 to 3 minutes. You will feel so much better.
You will.
I used to try to do, it's just like when my kids were little, I used to be like, meditate time. Okay, let me just tell you, it didn't work. So don't I am not here to, my kids would be busting on me so bad right now, but I tried. And all my kids would do would be like just to make fun of me, right? And, but I tried to be like, let's all take a rest break and do our breathing exercises. And anyway, it didn't really work. But I think if you started young, I was trying when mine were more in that snarky-ish, snarky-ish years. I think if you started young, the younger you start, the things work better, quite frankly. So I'm hoping some of these moms in the Momplex, there's still time for them. There's still
time. I love how you described it as a movement snack, though. Walk
movement
around
snacks.
the block.
Yes, absolutely. If you did movement snacks on and off all day, I'm just telling you, you're really better off than the person who's going out to do a 3-mile run in the morning and then they're sitting all day long.
Yeah.
So, I'm a big fan of movement snacks, especially for super busy people. So I'm a big fan.
I love it. It's really, because you've said before, it's nuanced. And I think health is not black and white. And you mentioned that before too. And I think I know one of your biggest missions really is to help, create so much awareness for how people are living, but also give themselves grace. Right. Yeah. And I think for you, and I want to talk about.
I would say self-awareness with grace. Wait, I just want to say one thing. I'm a big fan of the hair tissue mineral analysis. So I'm glad you mentioned that was my other thing for moms in the thick of it. Nervous system regulation. So whether that's blood sugar balancing diet, making sure you're looking at your hydration and looking at your breathing. Those are big 3 in terms of nervous system regulation. And 2 is if you are going down that path and you are trying different things and you just feel like you're not getting the results you want, I would definitely think about doing a hair tissue mineral analysis because you just don't know what heavy metals, those are things that your blood tests from your doctor are just not showing you. Okay. And so I did one, I don't know, it's probably been a couple of years ago through Vicon, Vykon. It was the company, and it was the HTMA, the hair tissue mineral analysis. And I think you can do it independently with them. You don't have to have a doctor or anyone. They are kind of a full service that you can go on. They send you the little kit, you snip a little bit of your hair and send it in, and then they analyze it. And then you get one or two meetings with a practitioner. And then they
That's
go over it
great.
with you, and then they actually will do customized minerals. It's not cheap, but I felt like it was, if you're a mom who's not getting the results, it is a tool you could use to see if there is something in there you're missing. The Vicon you could do on your own. The other one I would recommend, for your listeners to do a gut test, to do the stool sample. And I usually, you have to go through a health practitioner. I think they may have like Everlywell. Some of these, there's so many different companies now that have home tests you can do. But that would be the other one, just to see if you're missing something in your gut. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there because, I do think those are valuable.
I appreciate that so much because I personally experienced some incredible frustration going to my, regular doctor out here, who basically just said, well, you're a woman. This is just how you're supposed to feel. And I've always had very high expectations for myself and for my life. And I don't want to throw in the towel. I don't want to feel like this forever. And sometimes when you do the labs, they just are looking, oh yeah, your iron is within range. Well, is it within range for me? It might be low for me, even though it's within range for 330 million people,
right.
So I appreciate this because it's as hard as it is. And I know my parents actually, they always make fun of me for buying organic and going to the farmer's market and being so hyper fixated on what we're putting in our bodies. And I joke with them, but I'm like, it's not the same food that you were feeding me. And it's not. And I think you just really explained it so well. The soil, let's talk about just the basics. The soil isn't the same.
Yeah, the soil isn't the
what's
same.
being sprayed on the products isn't the same. And so we are not actually eating the same thing. So it makes sense that our bodies have not evolved for the changes in the food, right? So we want to make sure that we're gathering enough information. How is this affecting me? And so these are great. I'll find the links and I'll be sure to put all of this in the show notes so you can access it. But that's great. So I want to talk to you because you bring it up, your 5 pillars. And I know this is really important in the foundation of your own work and how you support your clients. Talk to me about that. Let's break it down. Like, what are the 5 pillars and how you landed on them?
Yeah. So my 5 pillars are, I'll put it in the simple form: eat, sleep, move, breathe, and connect. Okay. Those are mine, right? And they're not really that different than, you probably could find them on Huberman's or, other people. They might state it slightly different, or they may categorize them slightly different. But, even the Blue Zones book, I think it's kind of similar in terms of what they found in these blue zones or what people were doing, was kind of leading them to, have this wonderful long lifespan free of disease. Right. But so those are mine. So eat a nutritious diet. And I think, I always say eat the most nutritious diet that you can do consistently day in and day out. And I think back to your point a minute ago, the key really to getting healthier, being healthier, or trying to make some changes is first and foremost self-awareness. Is just really be honest with yourself. There's no judgment here. Like, there's always someone who's going to have better habits than you. And there's a lot of people out there who are far worse. So there's no judgment. I mean, when I first started my business, I would literally have friends of mine trying to hide their shopping carts in Trader Joe's. And I was like, I'm
not judging you. I promise.
You can judge me for what is in my cart. I kind of operate by the 80-20 rule. So my kids make fun of me that we're an ingredient household, but I do find, I do buy, healthy snacks within reason. I mean, I'm not like, whatever. We have probably more than
we're
some
human.
Less. So we're human, right? So I kind of operate by that. If you can get your 80% right, you've got a lot of grace in your 20%. And I think always say self-awareness with grace. Right? You want to be as self-aware as you can about what you're actually doing, but you want to give yourself grace. There is no guilt. There's no shame. There is no judgment. Guilt, shame, and judgment will keep you from ever doing anything better than you're doing today, right? So
Yeah.
self-awareness with grace. And then really, it's just important. Take a look at like what you're actually eating. I mean, I try to limit my sweets, but I'll go through, like, I'll come back from vacation where I've started eating dessert every night because we're eating out. And like pretty soon I'm like 3 weeks down the road and I'm like, why are my jeans a little tight? Where like I could say it's menopause, right? I mean, I could easily tell myself like, oh my gosh, I'm almost 60. This is just how it's going to be. But if I'm really honest with myself, it's always because I had just gone down that road of self-indulgence. Like, and it's not 1 day or 2 days, but it will be over a course of weeks. And then I'm like, I have to like straighten myself back up. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, let's just get back on the horse here,
Yeah.
But so self-awareness with grace is, the key, the first step. And then just take a good look at like what you really are eating day in and day out. And are you eating a nutritious diet? Are you getting, so back to your momplex, to your moms out there, the easiest way to try, like I try to do things in a simple way. Like I'm not one here to tell you to go eat, X number of grams of protein and this and look at your macros. And if you need that help, that's great. Like there is definitely that help out there. I think nutrition should be simple. And I'm definitely kind of a fan of the Michael Pollan, eat real food, mostly plants, not a lot. I eat a well-balanced diet. I eat hamburgers. I eat steak. I eat chicken. I eat lots of plants, lots and lots of plants. I've been vegetarian. I tried being vegan. I've tried a lot of different things. I've tried keto. I've tried a lot of different things. What's, best for me is, I'm not keto at all, but I don't eat, I try to stay away from, I'm gluten free. So it kind of keeps me away from eating too many kind of processed carbs because a lot of them have gluten in them, but I try to eat, I would say, a mostly plant-based diet with good sources of lean protein or
that's
protein
great,
in there. But anyway, so really look at what you're eating. Take a hard look. The easiest way, sorry, I got a little off track, but the easiest way is protein, fat, and fiber. So if you are balancing protein, fat, and fiber, that is your key to maintaining your blood sugar balance. You want protein, fat, and fiber at every meal and snack as best you can. So whether you're drinking a smoothie, you can do protein, fat, and fiber. You just have to have, when you make a smoothie, you need to throw a handful of spinach in there, or you can do cauliflower rice. You have to have something that's going to retain that cellulose, the fiber, once you have blended the smoothie up. Fruit will not. It's done. Like it turns to sugar. And you really need to reduce the amount of sugar. Add your protein powder, your whatever type of milk you've got going on there. You need to add like chia or flax. And I often add like a tablespoon of almond butter or some nut butter to mine. But once again, you want to make sure it's protein, fat, and fiber. You can do that still protein, fat, and fiber if you're restricting calories without the almond butter in there. It's just a good source of fat. But so chia has fat and so does flax. It just depends on it. But,
and I love how you said it too. It's the protein, fat, and fiber, not to lose, like, not that we all want to look freaking amazing. We all want to be able to wear the clothes, but you're talking about blood sugar balance. And I think that's a huge shift in the health focus that has happened in the last, decade.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not really about, restricting calories. It's like, how's your blood sugar? And I think that's a huge piece of awareness that a lot of people are not noticing. Yeah. How could a busy mom notice?
Because if you're, if you're trying to lose weight, it's still, I hate to say it, you still have to have a deficit there, right?
Yeah. So caloric deficit.
I really, I haven't counted calories since I was, in college when, the time we grew up. I'm with you. I felt like it was the same messages, right? Like, But I think the thing when you're looking at protein, fat, and fiber, protein and fat just make you full faster and they keep you satiated for longer, and fiber as well. So I think that combination just leads you to eat less, quite frankly.
Okay.
Right? Because you're filling your nutritional needs, and as well as you've got the fiber, it's slowing things down. You're getting full protein. You just get a big bang for your buck nutritionally with, your protein. So, I think you just kind of end up probably eating a little better. I mean, they did, I don't know if you've seen those studies. There's just there was a recent study where they looked at, I forgot how long this study was. It couldn't be that long because it would probably be deemed not safe for humans, but maybe it was like 4 to 6 weeks. I'm not sure I'm going to get it right. I read the study, but I'm going to forget. But basically they took one group and they gave them, a healthy, like what's considered like a protein, fat, and fiber, healthy fruits. I mean, healthy plants and, legumes and lean protein. And then the other had a more processed based food diet, but they had, their nutritional requirements were met. So they could eat as much as they wanted, but within what they were given, those macros and micros were met. But one was given pretty much all fresh, healthy food. The other was given more of a process base, but the nutritional requirements were the same, right? Ooh. I think. And the group with the processed food on average ate 500 calories a day more than the fresh food. Yeah.
Interesting. Because it was spiking their blood sugar?
I don't know if it was spiking their blood sugar or just they weren't, it just was with the sugar and the salt and the.
Got it.
It was just, it's more addictive. It's not satisfying, right? It's not telling your body like, ooh, you're being nourished, in the same way.
Got it.
It's an interesting study. I could probably find it if you want it for the show notes, but
yeah, that'd be great. But so when we're talking about eating, and I know your other 4 pillars, but I know that the food and the nutrition is just such a struggle, and it's a trigger point for especially busy moms. How could a busy mom? What are some easy ways for her to monitor her blood sugar or to notice if she's spiking it or not? Are there anything she should be aware of?
I mean, you can get a Dexcom, like you can buy a glucose monitor. You can get them. And I don't want to say they're controversial. I think that I think it's a great tool. You're not going to wear it forever, but you can get a Dexcom, make some. I wore one for a couple of months. I did it through Levels. That's, Casey Means, company.
Okay.
I did it through Levels, but it's cheaper if you just buy it through Dexcom. And I think I'm not sure they are yet, but pretty soon CVS is going to sell them. I'm pretty sure they're just going to, like you can just go to CVS and buy them. And then they have a QR code. You load the app. You basically scan the QR code that comes with the glucose monitor. You wear it and then you do the read on your phone. And I think, for the vast majority of people, if you do not have diabetes or pre-diabetes, you don't really have blood sugar regulation problems, you're going to stay within a much more narrow range. Your blood sugar is going to go up and down based on what you eat, but you're not going to have these like big, spikes up and down. But if you really want to know, I mean, if you're the type of person who fasts in the morning and then you drink black coffee and then, and you're not kind of doing anything else, you kind of wonder, like, is this spiking my blood sugar? Like, am I maintaining? I think a Dexcom is a great tool. I mean, you will see, like, if you have an empty stomach and you eat ice cream, like, you'll watch it, boop, 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 boop,
Yeah.
Right. But then you can play around with it. You can see, like I said, either it's a fun tool for your average mom. She may not have the time, but if you wear it, it'll ding you if your blood sugar is too high or low. I wore it for, like I said, 2 months. I got the information. I mean, I just found out that my blood sugar was pretty well regulated. So I just was like, I don't really need to wear this, but I felt like it was a good tool. Yeah. Easy That's way helpful to track. Yeah.
Yeah. So the eating, and then you also talk about the sleep, movement.
Sleep's so important. Like, and I get it. Like when you have young kids, the sleep can be very difficult, but, even, if you have young kids, even if you can take like a 24-minute cat nap, I do think when you sleep at night, that's when you think about it's when your brain kind of flushes out the toxins and kind of restores itself. So you want to get, I don't know I think for most people, 7's kind of my magic number, but for some people it's somewhere between 7 and 9. So you stick to 8, but whatever your magic number is, you want to strive for that consistently.
Yeah.
And once again, it's what you do. It's not what you do 1 or 2 nights. It's what you do consistently day in, day out. And that's where you really need to be honest with yourself. So, and then move. Mm-hmm. It's really just movement. It's not like especially like when you've got so many other things going on as a young mom, especially, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, whether you're a part-time working mom, whether you're a full-time working mom with young kids, you want to be able to move your body in a way that works with your schedule, what's doable for you, and what you can do consistently. And whether that's movement snacks, or maybe you're a full-time working mom and you just try to look at how can I get in more movement a day, and whether that's taking the stairs instead of the elevator. I mean, all those little things that people have told us for years, they actually do work. Whether it's like walking on your lunch break, walking to, pick up your lunch, or, walking to go, it's just like trying to get some type of movement in regularly. I think for some working people, joining an exercise group, whether it's like a run club, so that you have someone a couple days a week you could, run with after work. I know it's hard because you also want to get home to your kids. I was that mom, so I know how trying to fit in that little bit of exercise, even, 3 days a week, it can be hard.
Yeah, I agree. And for the longest time, I really did put off my own mental and physical health in the name of my kids. I'll focus on myself later, right?
Yeah.
Or I'll have more time when my kids are older. And now I have kind of an interesting spread because I've got 2 high schoolers and an elementary school age kid. So I'm kind of, I'm teetering on both sides. I'm not any less busy just because my kids are older. It's a different energy output, right? Now they're out driving, or they're out later than curfew, or they're so you still might not sleep, but for different reasons, or you still might be distracted. And so one thing that helped me is sharing my goals with my kids. Mom is trying to, improve her health. She wants to sleep better. She wants to eat better. So can I get your support? I'm going to run 3 days a week. And the more I shared with them, the more, I guess, the less threatened they felt by me not being with them. And they kind of got involved. They would follow me around and say, "Oh, you haven't finished your water, Mom," or, and it kind of became this team effort. And I noticed that even when I told that to my kid when he was 9, he got it. I didn't have to, I think they're so much more capable. So to your point, starting early is only going to pay you back, and then they learn those healthy habits from us, right? Then they choose, Mom's taking the stairs instead of the escalator, Mom's eating a peach today and not snacking on Cheez-Its. I love a good Cheez-It. I'm not knocking that.
No. All things, that 80-20, right? 80%, you got some grease on that 20.
You got some grease on that.
Get 20. To eat that Cheez-It.
Don't think I didn't eat my way through Greece. Like at every gelato stand we stopped. Every single one.
I love the buy-in. I mean, for many reasons. One, I do think it works. Like I always when people are struggling to know how to I have one client who, she's a fabulous mom. She has young kids, and her oldest can definitely be challenging. She's super smart, right? Like smart girl. And she can be a little challenging. And I always say, have you asked her, get her buy-in? So I'm struggling with this, what do you think, about it, right? Like flip it on its head. And I love that, like with your kids and just, to share with them, like mommy is really trying to get some more sleep, and I'm wondering, I'm hoping you guys can help me. Do you guys have any ideas for ways you guys could help me? I think when you have younger kids, it's great. I think when you get that like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, you have to like, what you said, it's just, mommy's, is trying to get some more sleep and I really need you to help me by, blah, blah, blah. Do you think you can do
blah,
that?
blah, blah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I love that. I love the buy-in because I think, it also makes them feel included and makes them feel important,
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think I've talked to, I think we got to give our kids more credit, I think, sometimes, like actually push them to rise up to meet us,
For
right?
sure.
That they will understand. And then, like you said, with the shame and the guilt and the judgment, when you get your kids buy-in, then that mom guilt will dip.
Yeah.
So when you are working out, you're choosing, instead of going straight home, you're going to go walk around the block or go, do your running club.
Yeah.
You're like, wait. My kids they know what I'm doing and I'm going to be so much more patient.
Yeah.
I'm going to sleep better. That's going to make me show up even better for them. Like it's all talk about the environment,
quite frankly,
right? Like that's your environment.
I think it's okay just to tell your kids, like, you know what? One thing I noticed about me is I am able to be more present with you. I'm able to be my mood is better. I'm more present with you. I'm like when I do these things because taking care of my body makes me feel better. And when I feel better, I'm more there for you. And I think like helping them because you want them to also understand that taking care of their body will make them feel better, but I think all of that, like being as honest and transparent with our kids and getting their buy-in, I think it's, we sometimes are just, I was so guilty of this, like going through the motions, when they were little and all you want is like, I just want 15 minutes to go exercise. And then all of a sudden your energy gets wonky and then it's like, their energy responds. And then all of a sudden you've got just, it's like things get more tense. And, when really I do think exactly what you said, if we can just slow down, take a deep breath and like, you know what, actually mommy just needs to take care of herself right now. Like, what do you,
Yeah, I love that.
It doesn't always work. Nothing always works all the time.
Nothing always works, but the self-awareness, stepping back and kind of looking at it. I always say there's no such thing as failure. It's all feedback, right?
Yes,
what was
absolutely.
the feedback that we got, right?
Yes.
And how can you use it?
Yeah.
And you talk about your breath and then connection as your last two pillars.
And so here's, and I know we probably have to wrap up soon, but breathing is super important. I don't know. I think it's James Nestor he's a Stanford doc that wrote the book Breathe. And it's a great one to read. Yep. Yeah. And just on the importance of nasal breathing and there are all kinds of breathing exercises. I'm not going to get to read James Nestor's book. He's much smarter in that area than I am, but I spent years like changing the way, trying to start, even when I was running, breathing through my nose. And there's a handful of things I did over the years where I really my diet didn't change that much, but I watched as my immune system got better over the years. And I do think the nasal breathing is one of them where I just became more aware of my breath and breathing through my nose. I think the other was drinking salty lemon water first thing in the morning, hydrating before dehydrating. But yeah, breathing super important. The other one is connection. So your relationship, connecting with nature, connecting with your family, your friends, those people who, healthy relationships are super important. And I know we were talking about this before we went on where, health is super nuanced and there's always something in my field. I've watched it for years that is like, it's like the golden egg of the week, right? Whether right now it's protein, right? Protein. I'm like, how many people are going to end up with kidney disease? Like, stop telling people to eat so much protein. I am not anti-protein, but you can look at all the studies, people who eat a plant-based vegan diet can maintain as much muscle mass as people who eat, a full-on beef diet, whatever. Don't quote me on that but there just was that study that came out with.
And there was a Netflix series on that too. Yeah.
We know all these athletes who are plant-based that do fine. Yeah, they maintain their muscle mass. So, once again, I also have tried to, what I do try to do is combine my protein, fat, and fiber. And I do try to break my fast in the morning with protein, not protein, but with that combination. So, however, I think this over focus on protein, like it's some magic cure for everything. And that's where I was going. Not that it's not important. Once again, I think balancing your protein, fat, and fiber and making sure you're getting adequate protein at each meal is important.
It's good though.
I'm just not a fan of that taking something and making it like it's a magic cure all for everything. I think it's protein right now. And I think we've also gotten on this alcohol is poison, which it is. I'm not here to dispute that in any shape or form, but we do a lot of things. Our air, we could also argue that our air is poisoned. There's a lot of things in this world that we're doing that are somewhat deemed poisonous. And I'm not a fan of being a teetotaler or being a heavy drinker. I'm not telling you what to do. Once again, no guilt, shame, or judgment. But when you look at these populations where they're very healthy, and I think what they do have is this strong sense of community. And I think, we had COVID. I think all of us have just, like, everyone was kind of struggling to rebuild kind of their sense of community. And, I think connection is super important. And I think if you are sitting down at the end of the day with your friends or your significant other and sharing a glass of wine and talking about your day, and that is really important to you as a way to connect, I am not going to tell you to go make that mocktail and change it. I think that we have to really be real about, or be, self-aware about what we are doing and what we're getting out of it, and how it's either working for us or it's not working for us. And I think you can take those 5 things and kind of go through them one by one and just kind of analyze where you're at with those.
Yeah.
And what I would say is just try to make, I always say, try to do, a little bit better each week. So even if that's 1%, 2%, 10%, just try to do a little bit better each week. So that might be one small thing. Like, I'm going to drink 1 extra glass of water a day, right? It can be super small. Small things can have a profound impact on your health. Or I'm going to take a 20-minute nap when my kids are napping, right? You may feel like a changed person, I'm going to do a hair tissue mineral analysis because I can't figure out what is, and then, maybe change up some things. So, that's,
I think, and I appreciate it because you talk a lot about someone's foundation.
Yeah.
Right?
You want to have that strong foundation.
And the eating, the sleeping, the movement, the breath, the breathing, the connection, that's someone's foundation. Right. And and I think that gives everybody, talk about grace, because it takes the pressure off of one of those things being the cure all, the fix it all. But, right now I'm 48. A couple of things have happened in the last 12 months that were unexpected traumatic experiences for me.
Yeah.
So how I was living 2 years ago, that's not really what my body needs right now. My body needs some more sleep. It needs some more kind movement. It needs some more high, so my days might look really different today than they looked 12, 18 months ago. But the shiny object syndrome is going on so much right now. If you take, this patch or this shot or this thing, all of your problems will be fixed. Maybe for a moment they might, right? But we're not really balancing that with the foundation, right? I think what you're really saying is get your foundation, because that's where your support is, right?
I have this friend who, she had a whole movement in LA. Her motto was kind of keep your foundation strong and your heart open. And I was always like, I love that expression, right? And your foundation really should be kind of looking at those, pillars of health. That should be your foundation of health. And, and then, yeah, obviously we all need to keep our heart open, but, yeah, I mean, we're just like talking about these, nuances, of health. It's like, um, we look at things and it's like, okay, so I'll give you two examples. One is, intermittent fasting, right? And okay, everybody should be going 12 hours without food, that is considered intermittent fasting, but it should be mostly doable for everyone unless you've got blood sugar issues, where you may need to not go 12 hours without food. But for a while, this was maybe pre-COVID. It was obviously the hot topic in Silicon Valley. I mean, everybody was talking about intermittent fasting. Everybody should be intermittent fasting. And I'm not like, I probably do a little bit of intermittent fasting, but intermittent fasting is really it's not, there certain like perimenopausal, when you're in the thick of it with your kids, I'm not sure intermittent fasting is right for that, probably for a lot of your population, because it may drive your sympathetic nervous
blood
system
sugar.
Yeah. Right. And so once again, it's not for everyone, but I still remember one of my clients, she's super high level, Silicon Valley executive. She showed up and she'd been at a dinner party the night before. And she said, that is all the entire table talked about.
Was intermittent fasting the whole time.
Full of Silicon Valley powerhouses. And that was all they talked about. Right. And that's my point of like, there's always some golden egg that it's going to cure all your issues. But it's like, if you are intermittent fasting, but in that window, you're not eating a nutritionally sound diet. Like, I'm sorry, your intermittent fasting is not going to save you.
Yeah.
But, it's the same. It's like, we can take out seed oils, but if you're eating mostly processed food, the seed oils in the food is not really going to make that big of a difference. The problem is the fact that you're over consuming nutrient void food. It's not the seed oils, right? And I'm not like, absolutely, let's get rid of the seed oils, but it's not, there's too much focus on the seed oils instead of like making healthy food available for everyone. Right.
Like
right?
we're focusing
so it's like
on
we're
this
just missing the
little
point.
thing.
It's like everyone gets laser focused on one thing that's going to solve all our problems. And it's like, no, we really need to keep our eye on this foundation and the bigger picture and making this accessible to many more people.
Yeah. I love it. And you and I could talk forever because we didn't even tap on mindset, and we didn't really tap too much, because that's also going to motivate or unmotivate somebody. And I know you do help. You work with, clients in their teens all the way to the CEOs running Silicon Valley. And I know you do help support with mindset.
I have a few retired 80-year-olds too.
Oh, love it. Love it. That's what I want to be. I want to be that. So, I do. Where can my listeners connect with you or dive deeper and learn more about your work?
Sure. I mean, everyone can find me at stellafit.com, www.stellafit.com. I'm on Instagram. It's StellaFit Official. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm Stella Taylor Bergen on LinkedIn. I used to be on Twitter. I got off because it was not helping my own mental health.
Yeah.
So,
boundaries.
I ditched Twitter. There are I have every once in a while, I'm like, oh, kind of wish I was on Twitter. But then I'm like, I'm good. But you can find me there. You can email me through my website. So if you want to contact me, you can always email me through my website. So, or reach out, DM me on StellaFit Official.
Okay. I'll put all that in the show notes. And I really, I really appreciate it because it's, when we're talking about the foundation, you're really helping people see their health through more than one lens. Yeah. And that is how we can become the most supportive of our bodies. I think one of the most best educations is self-education, right? It's just like understanding where you are, what you need, and where you want to go, right? And what's missing.
Why you make the choices you're making.
You make the choices you're making.
Self-awareness with grace.
Self-awareness with grace.
Moms need to give themselves grace. Yes, we carry way too much on our, we just carry too much on our shoulders, right? Like we think we're, Yeah, it just self-awareness with grace. And I love this one. I mean, we'll finish with this. I listened to, it was a Huberman Lab podcast with Dr. Becky. You can find it on there. I think she's been on there a few times. And
she has, yeah.
I wish I had had Dr. Becky when my kids were young, but I still remember her saying, like, she said, you tell yourself, I'm a good mom. I just made a bad choice. But it doesn't mean like you make one bad choice. We all make bad choices. Like we all do things and say things to our kids that later we're like, what was going on with me? Like I'm a good mom. I'm just not taking care of my body as best I can right now. That doesn't mean you're a bad mom. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. Doesn't mean you're like, there's nothing. It's just, I love that self-talk, just one, owning the fact that you're a good mom, you're a good human, but self-awareness goes a long way. Own the fact that of your goodness, but accept the fact that our goodness comes with flaws. Give yourself grace. But if you can't recognize the flaws, we can't make strides forward.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I love that. Self-awareness with grace. Well, thank you so much for coming on
thank
today.
You for having me. I'll come back.
This was a wonderful conversation. Yes, you're going to come back because I think we barely scratched the surface.
Chatting's one of my superpowers.
Connection. We just took care of a pillar.
Yes,
there we go.
Connecting is one of my superpowers.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Scotty.